No, and thank you for keeping this broad, because I think that's what we need in this situation. Because we believe that the US role on the global humanitarian and development area is critical. And I think it will be very hard for anybody to replace what US has been doing. So I really hope that through the constructive engagement we can find more balanced solution moving forward. If we don't hang on to hope, it's very, very hard, because most of the time what we do is in a disaster situation, crisis situation. We see the human suffering all the time. And I can tell you that many of our colleagues have to decide at times, like they had to do during COVID-19 time, and many other crises, that we can support this group of people, but we cannot support this group of people because the resources are never enough. We also have invested heavily in the last few years to try to diversify the source of funding, trying to get the private sector involved much more. If you look around now, the real resources actually lies in the hand of the private sector. And we see that a private sector is keen and willing to engage, but of course, their expectation is quite different than the government. And I think as a humanitarian organization, we are also learning how to partner with them. I don't want to be naive that it's going to be easy. No, it's not going to be easy. I think my guess is 2026 would be even a lot harder than 2025 already is. But if we already start working on that direction, hopefully we can sort of start shifting the trend that we are seeing at the moment.
So the opposite problem right now, obviously, he's worried about what's this leadership going to do.
Have you met Lauren before? Associated Press?
We know what happens if we don't invest. We know what happens if we ignore the situation. We expect that we'll see more people migrate out. I mean, at the moment, we've had about 1 million people over the last year go home, about 700,000 just since the new government came in. We've had about 500,000 go from neighboring countries back into Syria itself. If we want people to ultimately go home, if we want them to find safety, if we want them to encourage others to join them, it's critical that we ensure that once they're there, they find stability, they find peace, they find a functioning government. And if member states now turn away from the glimmer of hope that exists, then certainly we know what will happen, and we expect that that will lead to more migration outward. If you want Syrians to go home, you have to invest in a more stable Syria. You have to find ways for the economy to function properly. You have to find ways for people to invest resources, to build businesses, to rebuild housing, to rebuild skills, all of the things that we would expect as anyone who's going into a post-conflict country. And so the message here is we understand the domestic political pressures for Syrians to go home, but you can't have it without an investment in a stable Syria. So our plea is, while we certainly understand that states feel the need to increase their defense spending, that there are pressures across the world that they want to be sure that they are able to confront, investing in the rebuilding, investing in the stabilization of Syria is essential to ensure that we're using funds as effectively as possible.